Hi guys, welcome to Instant Film. Today, we will be recapping a brilliant sci-fi episode that involves a lot of thrills. Stay till the end to experience a ride with all the suspense intact. Let's begin. The story is based in a future London. Karen Park, a police detective, is anxiously waiting outside a court hearing. She is called in. The judge starts by asking her to start from the beginning. She begins her statement. We are transported to the 15th of May when Karen first got involved in the case. Day 1. Karen gets to her house after work. She picks up some snacks and sits in front of the TV watching a news channel. The reporter reports the outrage over a journalist, Joe Powers. She had made fun of a martyr, Gwen Marbury, by calling her a wheelchair martyr. She also reports that honeybee mimicking drone insects called ADIs have been activated for their second summer. As Joe Powers walks through the streets, she is constantly being ridiculed by people on the way. A cake van arrives in front of her house as she does. The delivery boy delivers a cake to her, and after doubting a bit, she accepts the cake. Her husband and she seem disappointed when they see what's written on the cake. Nevertheless, Joe still cuts out a piece of the cake and takes a bite from it. Her husband doesn't eat it. She is browsing through the internet and her trolls are spread all over the internet. She doesn't take the criticism seriously and laughs at the trolls. Her windows are slightly open. We get back to Karen. It is night and she is still watching TV. On an interview show, Tusk, a rapper, is insulting a little kid for not emulating him properly. Karen gets a message informing that there's an emergency. Karen refreshes and gets to the location. She is received by Blue Coulson, who is there as her assistant. In police terms, she is called a shadow. As they proceed closer to the victim, Nick Shelton informs Karen about the victim. The victim is Joe Powers, the journalist previously shown. They get into her house. Joe's neck is slit as she is laying down on the carpet. Nick informs that her husband is injured. He was found slashed across his stomach and then sent to the hospital. They try to figure out the source of the death. Karen sees the cake and asks Nick to send it for examination. Karen and Blue walk out of the scene. Karen thinks that the case might involve drugs or domestic violence. Blue doesn't have a car, so Karen gives her a lift. During the ride, Karen gets to know Blue's background. Blue was previously in the computer sector of forensic. She quit it after the Rannick case. The case involved some horrible images and videos of child killings. She hopes that her current job will be better. Blue gets out when her home arrives and greets Karen as she leaves. Day 2 begins. In the morning, Karen gets ready and gets to the police station. As Karen approaches her, Blue explains that she is collecting information on everyone who has insulted Joe Powers in the last 48 hours. Karen calls it off and says that the husband is more likely to have killed Joe because domestic fights are much more real than internet hate. She also reveals that she was divorced. Nick interrupts them and informs them that Joe's husband is awake and ready to give his alibi. Karen and Blue head to the hospital to meet the husband. They reach the husband's room and surround him. The husband reveals some depressing information. Joe was in the upper floor of the building when she started making noises. The husband went up to look and saw her clutching herself. It only stopped when a seizure struck her. Then, she began hurting herself, clawing her skin, smashing her head, and used a smashed bottle to cut herself. When the husband tried to stop her, she cut his stomach. Finally, she cut her throat. The husband cries. Karen and Blue walk out of the hospital. While doing so, they argue. Blue suspects that the cake might have included some toxin, whereas Karen doesn't. Karen ends the argument by saying that the cake is under examination. The person who had sent the cake has been found, so they head to talk to him. While heading to meet the cake person, Blue checks the person's social media feeds. Karen finds this irrelevant. The cake person is Lisa. She is a school teacher. She clarifies herself by saying that the cake sent to Joe was crowdfunded by 80 people. Blue emphasizes that Lisa wanted Joe dead, referencing to a hashtag she used on Twitter, #death2. Karen gets a message from the forensics that the cake is clean. This clarifies their doubt. They leave the school and get to the office. Karen's focus is now on the husband, but Blue still suspects there might be someone else behind it. Karen asks Blue to not care about the internet trolls. Nick informs them that Tusk, the rapper, is now getting the heat due to his statements about the kid. Tusk has just ended his performance and is in the parking lot. His friend hands him a cigarette in there. Suddenly, he starts having immense pain in his head and struggles. His friend takes hold of him. He is transported using an ambulance. He is given an injection to calm him down. After he is calmed down, he is taken to the MRI as a tumor is found in his brain. During the MRI, he faces sudden seizures and dies. On the scanner, his brain can be seen slashed through. On noticing closely, the doctors find his eyes covered with blood. A doctor sees something inside the MRI machine and picks it up. It's the autonomous drone insect, the Audi. MRI's magnetic field had pulled out the Audi from Tusk's head through his eyes. Sean Lee, a National Crime Agency agent, enters the hospital room. Day 3 begins. Karen and Blue are called into the hospital room with Joe. The examiner tells them that Joe's wound is deep and not caused by just a glass. He shows them the same Audi. The doctor found it in the dorsal posterior insula, which is the pain center of the brain. This explains the reason behind the immense pain experienced by the victim. Karen and Blue head to the company's office that owns these ADIs. One of the company's employees, Vanessa Dahl, meets them and takes them to the company's founder. In their way, they see huge farms of plants and ADIs surrounding them. The company is called Swarm and its CEO is Rasmus Schuberg. They meet up with him. He explains the purpose of ADIs. After the extinction of bees, ADIs were used to replace them and help plants pollinate. The ADIs are spread all over the UK. They're programmed and then set free. They can even reproduce using a 3D printer that has been designed similar to a hive. On being asked the purpose of her visit, Karen informs Rasmus that one of their ADIs is suspected to have caused death. On examining, Rasmus confirms that this Audi is theirs. He follows it by saying that it is impossible to hack the ADIs. When Karen disagrees, he shows them the network of all the ADIs in a computer room. Blue locates Joe's location and asks to check the ADIs around it during Joe's death. On checking, Rasmus finds an Audi disconnecting from the network at that time. Rasmus is puzzled. When asked to inquire, he asks to be left alone, so Karen and Blue leave. Blue takes Rasmus contact while going. At the office, Sean Lee from the NCA pops up and discusses Tusk's case with them. Karen tells Sean Lee that both the cases have a connection as they include people hated on social media. Blue is on the computer and calls for others' attention. She has found a clue. On tracking back the hashtag used by people, that is, #deathto, a common account is found. It's a bot account automated to produce multiple tweets with the #deathto. The account's profile picture has the Audi bee on it. A video is also attached to those tweets. It's an instruction video called Game of Consequences. It includes 4 rules: pick a target, post photo with #deathto, the target will be dead by 5 p.m. every day, and the game resets at midnight. Karen and Blue are terrified seeing this. Blue finds the next target of the killer. It's Clara Meads, who posted a picture pretending to pee at a war memorial. Blue gets Clara's location. Clara is feeling very humiliated by the internet trolls as she is packing a joint. She gets a call from Karen. Karen tells her that she is in danger and asks her to stay at home, close all the windows and stay safe until they get her. Blue contacts Rasmus and he informs her that he has set up a trap for the killer. Sean opens and gets into his vehicle, which has very futuristic features embedded in it. A lot of soldiers surround Clara's place as she witnesses it and closes her windows. Rasmus gets a message detecting a breach in the system. Karen and Blue are at Clara's location. Blue gets a call from Rasmus informing her about the breach. Blue stays on the ground as Sean and Karen are with Clara to pick her up. She keeps looking around trying to find some clue. An Audi can be seen sitting on a CCTV camera. They manage to get Clara off the building and get seated in Sean's futuristic car. The car gets them out of the city and into the outskirts. They reach to an isolated house and get Clara into it. Unfortunately, the rogue Audi can be seen swarming over Sean's car. Karen and Clara chat. The Audi is upon one of their windows. They get upstairs and turn the lights on. Blue is in contact with Rasmus. He hasn't tracked the Audi yet. Suddenly, a whole hive goes missing from his monitor. Thousands of them go missing. Rasmus tries to tell her that the location of those ADIs is near them but isn't able to do so because of lack of connection. Even Sean loses connection. It's followed by something horrible. All the ADIs go missing from Rasmus' network. Sean sees a swarm of ADIs rushing towards him. He is baffled. He runs to the house to inform them about it. Blue sees the swarm approaching them through the windows and simultaneously gets the message from Rasmus. Blue rushes to the other two and tells them to run, but when they do, they find some of the ADIs entering through the gaps in the door. Sean is shouting outside. All the ADIs that have entered the house head towards the room. Blue is frightened as she sees a group of ADIs barging at the window. Karen leads them into the bathroom and locks them. She uses a cloth to fill in the gaps. The ADIs get in by breaking the windows. Karen, Blue and Clara hold their breath as a part of the swarm gathers outside the bathroom's door. The ADIs fill up the door's surface area. One Audi enters through the keyhole, but Karen blocks it. They forget one thing: the exhaust fan. The ADIs get in the room through the fan. Karen tries to block it but doesn't manage to do so. ADIs tries to enter into Clara's head. Karen and Blue prevent them for a while, but at last, an oddity gets into Clara's nose. Clara faces a seizure and struggles for a while, leading to her death. Karen has Clara on her lap and both Karen and Blue feel miserable about it. Back in the court, Karen is explaining all this. She is asked about Blue's reaction. She says Blue took the incident in a much deeper sense. In the office, they try to find out the process by which the oddity specifically attacked Clara. Blue says that the ADIs might have used facial recognition to attack specifically. Rasmus confirms this by revealing that the ADIs have the ability to do so, and this was granted to them by the government. Sean takes the government's side here and says that it helped them prevent a lot of disasters before happening. Blue confronts him and says that the government was spying on public and there's no redeeming quality about it. Rasmus thinks of a way to reverse it. Blue takes the oddity to see what can be done. Karen gets busy with checking the employees' poids. The group gets distributed. Day 4 begins. This information has been spread and all of the media and social media is talking about it. The news channels are now openly discussing it and are having polls on who has got the highest hashtags. Blue is trying to figure the oddity connectivity. Karen is checking the employees. Both haven't been able to find a clue. Karen consoles Blue. Blue discovers something and exclaims. Nick gets to her and checks the thing out. Karen talks to an employee facing some problems. She names a person who worked as a part of the granular for the oddity. This interests Karen. The person's name is Gareth Scholes. Karen rushes to tell Blue about it, but she finds her midway. Blue too names the same person as the culprit. They find a 98-page manifesto by the person embedded in an Addy's drive. They share copies of the manifesto. The manifesto claims to give people consequences to what they say and do. As Karen points out, the whole thing's a moral lesson. Nick posts a tweet mentioning #death to Gareth Scholes without any other person's knowledge. Blue finds a clue regarding Gareth. The selfie taken by him has a geotag on it revealing his location. Gareth is seen with computer. He gets the tweet that Nick has posted. They reach to his address with the army. The army breaks into Gareth's house. Gareth isn't there. Karen, Sean and Blue search in and out. Blue finds a clue once again. It's a burned out hard drive. They take it with them. In the office, it is connected to the computer. Rasmus says that it's a toolkit, a key to the gate. They find an extra file in the system. Blue examines while Rasmus tries taking control of the ADIs. The file has a shocking number of people mentioned, 378,000. One of those names is Liza Bahar, the woman who ordered cake for Joe. Other is Nick. All these people are those who had used the hashtag on Twitter. Rasmus gets an option to deactivate the system. Karen stops him and puts forth a theory. Sean doesn't listen to her. She believes that the real target of the killer are these 378,000 people who are the hate-mongers. The deactivate button is just a trigger to their death. Sean isn't able to control himself and clicks on the deactivate option. For an instant, everything goes well and the ADIs are deactivated. But this doesn't last long. All the yellow hives suddenly turn into red. The whole map is covered with red hives. Swarms of ADIs leave the hives and head towards the main city. Liza is teaching her students when an oddity appears on one of her windows. A student points at the window and Liza finds loads of ADIs barging at the window. The load of ADIs get together at SWARM's headquarters where the group looks at them anxiously. Nick is terrified. Gareth keeps his computer aside. He takes off his clothes as well as his hairs. He places artificial lens on eyes. Following this, he picks up his bag and leaves the house. The house is located in a rural background with mountains surrounding it. He throws his previous clothes into the river. Back in the court, Karen has completed her statement. Judge mentions that they realize the scale of the deaths that followed. Karen differs and goes on with her statement. After the mass event, Karen and Blue witness a hall filled with dead bodies. Judge questions Karen about what happened to Blue. Karen answers, Blue was devastated by all of it and felt that she fell into the trap of the killer. She felt guilty. Blue left the force and after 4 months, her things were found on a beach. She had also left a note with the things. People had assumed that Blue killed herself, but Karen doesn't exactly think so. Judge thanks Karen for giving her testimony. Karen leaves the court with police protection because a huge crowd is seen questioning her outside. Gareth completes his drink. Blue is sitting on a chair nearby. Thus, Blue is still alive. As Gareth leaves, she follows him. She sends a message to Karen. Karen opens the message and it reads, "Got him." Karen smiles and deletes the message. Blue continues following Gareth through the streets. This episode is testimony of the greatness possessed by the series, Black Mirror. It tackles so many different topics and manages to do justice to most of them. These topics vary from extinction of species to privacy of people and many more in between. I deeply admire this episode and would love to know your views on this episode in the comments. Subscribe to the channel for more such great recaps.